So it's a good time in South Florida right now. I'm not sure, but obviously the Florida Panthers won the Stanley Cup last night. I wanted to ask you because it seems like with black people, we've dominated so many sports: basketball, football. You could argue that we've had our greats in soccer, but it seems like hockey's that one that we just can't get over, that hump and being great at. What do you think it would take for us to become great at hockey?
That's honestly that's a weighted question because truth be told, we put from an early age we put in our children, we instill in our children football, basketball.
Hmm.
Like to be honest with you, it's more football here in Florida than any place else. Basketball is number two, and it's not even close. Like the
Right.
margin between football players and basketball players, it's a deep margin. So I personally think if we put more, because there are black hockey players. There's not many I know of about. I don't know them by name, but I've seen like maybe three or four of them. In passing. I think as a culture, if we put more of a focus on it, then there'd be more black. We'd have more dominance in that sport. We don't put a focus on hockey. You know what I mean? Like, and you know what's crazy? The one thing about hockey that I think turns us off is ice skating.
I think so
Excuse me
too.
for lack of term, but Negroes don't like the ice skate. You know what I mean? Like we'll roller derby, yeah. We'll what I mean. We'll go to the little skating rink. We'll do little dance and all that right there. But we don't rock with ice skating, and I get it. I'm okay with that, accepting that because you ain't gonna like everything. But if we put more of a focus on it to train these kids up to go into ice hockey, I mean, give them something else to be good at. You on a high school team right now, you got 10 cornerbacks and only five of them going to getting a college degree.
Right.
You know what I mean? As a culture, we don't pay attention to those statistics to where all everybody can't be an all-star quarterback. Everybody can't be an all-star running back. Everybody can't be an all-star linebacker, fullback, etc. So what else can you have the kid focus on? Some parents, all they know is a way out. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
I went to school with people that were amazing at football. And, it didn't work out the way they wanted, but they were still able to go get a degree. Why don't we take something like that, those stories, and focus them in the culture to show these kids, you know what? Football may not be your answer, but get something out of it. Try something else too.
Yeah, true. Did you play sports growing up?
I played sports growing up, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I played sports growing up as a necessity to have something to do. For me personally, I've been enamored of entertainment my whole life since 3, 4 years old. My family are full of entertainers, so I'm not afraid. I may have the build, I have the body, whatever. I had the athleticism. I was amazingly strong as a kid. I could run pretty quick. I had my successes. I wasn't super successful in football, but I had solid showings in track where I did shot put and discus. I went to states for that. I played basketball. I played dream varsity basketball. I tried to keep myself. I played volleyball. Like I tried to keep myself busy. For me, sports was a way to not get swallowed up by my environment.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I realized that at a young age. I realized at a young age where I stay, the neighborhood I live in, you could do one or two things. You could either play sports or sell dope. And that's literally just what it was.
Right.
It wasn't much of an in between. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
you had smart kids, but most of the smart kids played sports too. You know what I mean? Like I had a homie that was a genius, Aaron Johnson. This man was a genius. And he was a hell of a point guard, hell of a shooting guard. He had to do something else. We had to.
Right.
So these kids, this generation, they don't have that same situation, but the people raising these kids did. So that mindset is still heavy on play football so you can get us out of here.
Hmm. You
You know what I
mentioned
mean?
coming from a lineage of entertainers and, entertainment being in your family since you were young. How did you
Hmm.
know that you wanted to get into comedy?
It was funny because me getting into stand up. was my wife's decision. You know, I'm gonna be, I'm a real. I tell people I'm a real N word till I leave here. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm gonna be 100% forthcoming. I've been telling jokes my whole life. I've always been the class clown, the funny guy. Like that's always been me. I never thought I could do stand up, and I remember, I met a local comedian before I even got into comedy that was selling some DVDs, selling his DVDs, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm a comedian." Da, da, da. This was like maybe 2004, 2005. And I was like, I didn't know you could be a local comedian. I had no clue.
Hmm.
So fast forward a couple of years, and I'm doing sketch comedy because in high school I had a little bit of acting under my belt. So I said, you know what, I can channel back into that. You know, my kids are getting a little older. You know, maybe acting is the thing I need to do. South Florida got all these studios opening up and things are happening. So let me get my acting chops back up. And you know that this they had just opened. It was, I don't know if it's still there, but in Los Olas it was this huge movie studio, and I went to like a grand opening. I was so inspired that I said, you know what, let me get my acting chops back up. Let me go ahead and get that together because I want to get back into it. And it's a funny story because Clyde Gordon, he's a comedian from Florida. Um, he was running late for the show. We would have the actors do the sketches, and then we would have comedians that would, you know, do the little 5 minute intervals while we get dressed and whatever, whatever. So we didn't have anybody to do the little interval in between time. And the promoter, which was, you know, a relative of mine, she invited me out, and you know I was doing the show for her. And her and my wife were in the corner talking, and my wife goes loud as hell. Like the only thing I heard her say was, "Oh, girl, Bert can do that." So I was like, "Bert can do what?" "Oh, just go out there and talk for 5, 10 minutes." It's
She
like, "You
put you on the
mean go?"
spot.
Yeah. She was like, "Go do." I was like, "Go do comedy." She's like, "Yeah, you got to make them laugh." And then she grabs me, my wife. Now this is my wife. I had never been on stage before, not an open mic, not nothing. I had never. I did singing most of my life, but I had never been on stage to just tell a joke. So I didn't know if I was supposed to go out there and sing and hopefully they laugh, or you know, just say some words. My wife grabs me by the arm and she said, "You gonna knock it dead, honey. Don't bomb though. You can't come home with me." I'm like, "You done signed me up for this, and you tell me not to bomb it." I've never. Ah,
Hey,
let me
it's
ask you a
safe to
question. You have a pit
go.
bull?
Do I have a pit bull? Nah, I got a dog though.
Yeah, you know how this go then.
I do know how it goes.
Yeah, because I
How,
told the kids to damn take him with them. So
it's like your pit bull
you can
heckled you
leave
for
that
a
in there. I'm
second.
a real nigga.
Oh no, we're leaving
So
that in
I
there. That's
go up there.
hilarious.
And, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, hang on 1 second.
You're good. You're good.
He knocked my podcast down. I appreciate you both. Thank you. He's in the cage.
You
So
got your four-legged heckler.
yeah, I got a four-legged heckler. Appreciate you. Thank you. Because I told you to take him in your room that I pay all the bills for. Thank you. So I go on stage and I just start talking. And it just comes. It just starts coming. And then people are laughing. Now, this is wild to me because I'm like, am I really doing this? I'm doing this. I'm doing it.
Right.
So 10 minutes later, I was only supposed to do 5. But everybody is laughing and they're, you know, slapping their knee. And I'm just talking about the things that I just noticed around the neighborhood, you know, being that I'm in South Florida and we got a strong Caribbean culture. And, you know, I've talked about some things about that. I talked about being a parent, talked about being a father, talked
And
about how
did
my
you
wife
write
just,
this? Did you write this,
no,
or was this all just coming off the top of the head? It was all coming
this
off
was
the top,
all just off of
freestyle.
the head.
Wow.
I'm a black dad of 4 kids. Listen,
Hmm.
I could talk to you about 2 hours just about anything
Material
because you
for
know that's what we
days.
do. Dad is talking. We talk all damn day. So it
Hmm.
just happens that I got a sense of humor, and I didn't know how to structure a joke. Like I didn't have a punchline to set up a premise. I just know when I said certain things, these people were laughing, and I liked it. So the comedians that were there, they took me under their wing and they started taking me to open mics and I honed my craft. And 10 years later, I'm still doing it.
Here we are. Now,
Here we are.
from that first time that you hit the stage until now, how would you say your preparation has either changed or even grown? Is it still kind of more freestyle? Do you go in there with topics or do you kind of, take time and create like a writing process? How is it more for you now?
I have to be honest with you. It really depends on the room.
Hmm.
It depends on how I feel. I tell people all the time I have of solid material because I perform clean venues, I perform club venues, I perform a hole in the wall, I perform your granny's church banquet. Like I've done it all. So I first, if I know what type of venue that I'm going to, I know to prepare my set. For example, if I know I'm going to Wilton Manors, I know I need a lot of pop culture stuff. You know what I mean? If I know I'm going to deep South Miami, then I need to have my ratchet material together. Like,
Hmm.
I don't have like a common setup, so to speak. But if there's something that I notice, I try to limit crowd work because I personally feel that crowd work takes away from my craft of what I'm doing. Like, some comedians are going to do crowd work. That's getting the audience to tell the joke for you. I feel personally it should be a combination of that audience interaction as well as my set so people remember who's talking to them, why we're talking to them, and so forth.
Right.
So I've I can say now at this age, if I know everything that I'm walking myself into, whether I'm out of state, whether I'm in state, like Florida, I can't lose because I know what Florida likes. So I try to stretch my muscles and I go to other areas, I go to other states. And, I do pretty fair when I go to these other, like I just left Atlanta last month with the Keenan Thompson experience and I did great there. Um,
Congratulations.
yeah, appreciate it. Appreciate it. Going to New Jersey next in August. Going to rock out there, and I'm just continue growing the fan base. But yeah,
Right.
it's I would love to tell you that it's a set process for me because I'm different than most comics. I would love to tell you that I write, I do this, I do that, but I try to keep fresh material. But for the most part, it's all about a feeling for me.
Nice. And you obviously, you've honed your craft at this point. Is there a certain topic that you like to actually talk about to the crowd more than other topics?
Um,
You mentioned your
I
family earlier. I know, like, comedians love family. You get a lot of material from your family. As
yeah,
you mentioned, it's
yeah.
endless to talk about. So, like,
Well, my family's one down here. What I'm most known for, and this I don't I take it with a grain of salt. I'm most known for my experience in Caribbean culture, and those jokes they're not long. Like I want to say I probably have maybe 20, 30 minutes of my experience of growing up here in Caribbean culture. My wife's Caribbean, so I take a lot of that and I infiltrate that into my jokes as well. I'm most known for that because when people hear me do the accents, they swear I'm from these places, and I'm not from that. I'm not Jamaican. I'm not Haitian. I'm an American kid that had island friends that used to play the dozens with me, and I pick up a few things.
Mhm.
Like if I'm sitting talking with my Jamaican friend when I was in high school, and he go bumbaras, blah 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 blah, and I kind of pick that up, and I'm like bumbaras, blah 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 blah. I pick that stuff.
Right.
Why I say why I mean why I do like the stuff like that.
Eh.
Or if I'm hanging with my Haitian homies and they're like, yeah, I don't understand why this guy have to talk like this every single day. I pick that up from them too. I got a Bahamian friend that's like one of my best friend, dear for years, and I tell this joke. He don't know it's about him, but it's about him because I tell this joke where Bahamians are at their happiest before work. When they go into work, don't mess with them. Cause it's a whole different beast. They happy as hell. They have a beer with you in the parking lot. Mine, you want a colic? I drink one with you all day. You my brother, man. You my brother. Soon as they punch in, man, don't say nothing fucking to me for the rest of the fucking day. Like that's, and I got that from him because it will be in the parking lot, chilling.
Right.
And then when we go to punch in, cause we used to work together. When we go to punch in, he's a whole different Negro. So, boy, I'll kill everybody in this fucking place, man. This guy, I just got here and he want me to pick up a fucking broom. Like, bro, you work here. What do you mean? So these are the things that people remember me for this because and it's not my whole joke set. I talk about a lot of things. I'm one of the few comedians that could go into, like, I've done comedy at the gay club and killed. I don't go in there insulting them. Some comics will go in there and they'll let something rip and they think it's funny. It's like man, those people want to laugh just like anybody else.
Right. Al, you
And you at a
mentioned
club full of them, watch your
right.
tone.
Yeah,
You
a
watch your
hundred
tone.
percent. Cause I think it was Cat Williams who said it, how if you have to offend somebody to make other people laugh, then it's not really comedy. So the fact
Yeah,
that you're able to like go in there and be able to diversify the jokes and make sure that people are still having a good time is a great thing. You
yeah,
mentioned getting inspiration from your friend, and you also mentioned how you started acting
yep.
when you were in high school. If we could kind of take it back a little bit, because your wife mentioned that you're also naturally funny. How much of that inspiration do you think comes from the lunch tables of just like running into your friends and you guys are just ranking on each other like all day and
What?
things like that? Like, how much of your comedic genius do you think you get from that as well?
I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you a story. My friends, we call ourselves the Collard Green Gangsters.
Mm-hmm.
I came up with that name when it was a joke. I came up with it when I was a kid. We all agreed that's what we were going to run with because it was a lot of people clicking up in gangs. And, we was, comic book guys, TV guys. We weren't really into that. So we was walking from school one day and dude was like, "Hey, what set y'all claim?" So quickly, I was like, "Oh, we call it Green Gangsters." Like I didn't even think about it, right? So I was like, "Oh, we call it Green Gangsters." Like, "Oh, call it Green." Like, you know what I mean? Because and the dude took us seriously. So the next day in school, everybody is walking by us talking about collard green gangsters. I was like, I told this to one nigga, now the whole school is calling us collard green. And then it kind of imploded. It got out of hand because now we had people coming up to us that was similar to us, our style and what we were. Like, hey man, how I join y'all gang? Nigga, we is not a gang. We is But it stuck with us for all 4 years of high school. People
Mm-hmm.
called us the collard green gangsters. So being that we were all naturally clowns, like not a serious one in the bunch. Like no matter how hard we tried, not a
Right.
serious one in the bunch. We were always roasting and cracking on each other to the point where we never fought about it, but we held some resentment sometimes. Because sometimes it was rough. Like,
Right.
God bless her heart, man. That was my granny, and I love my granny. And one time, my granny ain't groomed herself right. She had a little bit of a mustache, and she opened up the door, and my homeboy seen that, and that man roasted me about my granny. The same behavior I was telling you about. That cat roasted me about my granny. That cat, no matter what I threw at him, that cat say, "Yeah, but my granny don't have a mustache. Your granny have a mustache. Your granny got hair on her lip. Your mine." Like, you know what I mean? Like, like that's my granny. She got 1 foot in the grave. You son of a bitch. That's my granny. But that's how we had to be. Like we had, I think it mentally prepared me for this moment because even when I'm on stage, if somebody's messing with me, a heckler or something, I'm quick. Not the dog, but if somebody's heckling me, I'm quick on it. Like I'm ready. I'm at you. Some comedians try to keep their set going. Nah, I'm so programmed from high school that you start roasting on me, I'm roast your ass right back.
Right. Do you
So
remember the
yeah,
first
it
time you
it
got
it
heckled?
did a lot, man. It definitely developed me. It gave me thick skin
Mm-hmm.
because one thing that these kids, I make sure my kids understand this. You got to have thick skin these days because I had to go against people that I called my friend. Like you supposed to be my homie, and you roasted me to the core. Like I'm corn on the cob on the grill right now.
Right.
But we could still dap each other up and go grab something to eat and do it all again the next day. That means something. It meant something to me, and it stuck with me for
Absolutely.
years.
Do you remember the first time you got heckled on stage?
Hell yeah! The first time I got heckled on stage was in Wynwood, and it was by a drunk girl. And I had just got this comedy room. I was hosting, and I was funny. Everybody liked me. People were laughing. But I said something to her, and I don't even remember what I said. But I said something about her clothes that she had on. Like it looked a little off. I was like, okay, you chose a little bold ensemble to come here with tonight. This is a little different. And she wasn't funny, but she just would not let up on me. So like the whole hour into the show, she's still heckling me. So I'm roasting her ass right back. Deep down inside, I think I set her up for that. because I was young in my comedy experience. Like I won't heckle or mess with somebody in the crowd if I'm being funny. That's the
Hmm.
secret to comedy. If you see your favorite comedian start mess with somebody in the crowd, he bombing. So at that point in my career, I was like maybe 3, 4 years in. So my transition game wasn't what it is now. So I look and I see something, and my ADD is terrible. So if it's distracting me, like she had on some loud clothes,
Right.
and then she got up in the middle of my set and put her hand in my face. Before I could even step back, my wife was on her. Because my wife come to me all my shows.
Right.
There's if you ever see me at a show and my wife's not there, she home sick or at work.
Hmm.
But I want to say if I do 100 shows in a year, she's at 98, 97.
Damn, that's love.
Yeah, that's hey. She put me in this business, and to
Yeah.
this day she get in the car and say, "Don't bomb, your ass can't come home."
She's protecting
And
the investment.
oh yeah, and if I have a bad show, that shit should be on me. Like she in her accent and everything. I don't know why you say that to these people. That's stupid, but yeah, she keeps me balanced. She keeps me
Yeah.
balanced, damn sure.
Yeah, you need a good woman for that too. You,
Absolutely.
as we're talking about the topic of roast, and I know we talked about sports a little bit earlier, but recently Tom Brady had his roast, and
Oh yeah.
one day I believe from what I'm seeing from you that you'll get to that point where someone's going to be like, "Hey, we want to do the Bert Cornelius roast." How do
Hmm.
you feel about that? Is that something that you'd be open to in the future? Is it something that that you'd be against? Is it like a goal?
I can handle it. You just got to be funny.
Yeah.
Just I've been in the roast. I've been in the roast. We do a roast every year for comedian See No Evil. He's a comedian down here, and we do it. He's blind. He's a handicapped comedian, and I'm not gonna lie. It's the only time a year where I can just let loose on his ass with no guilt. So, hey, I don't care. You know what? I'm just being transparent. I'm rising a bit in popularity right now, which is great. My page is growing. Between all platforms, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, I got over 30K followers right now between all those platforms. So things are working for me, and it's getting better. And when I'm telling you, if I hit 100 across all platforms, and I was
Hmm.
touring across the world and all this, if that man called me and say, "Bert, come do my roast," I'm coming because it's the one time I get to let loose on a blind man, and nobody's mad at me. The son of a bitch, I get to let loose on him, and nobody's mad. So, but sometimes he come with it. Sometimes the other comedians that are there, they come with it too, and you just got to be able to take it with a grain of salt. I personally love when somebody takes the time out to impersonate me. Like my wife and kids, they do an amazing impersonation of me. I love stuff like that because that means I've created some type of memory in your heart for you to take time and actually impersonate me. That means
Right.
something to me. It's corny, but it's how I think.
Hmm.
So I can handle being roasted. Keep it all on me. Don't put it on my wife and kids. Keep it all on me.
Who would be your dream lineup for you to have roast you?
Oh, people that I know that would do it with good. Oh, you mean like famous
It could
comedians?
be anybody, anybody.
People that I know that would roast me, and it's generally coming from the heart. There's a comedian down here, one of my good friends. I was in the Real Husbands of Comedy with him, Pookie F Baby. I know he would roast me, and he come from the heart. Sylvester Pookie Britton. He's the only man I'll ever call Pookie. I'm not calling no grown man Pookie, but I call him Pookie because that's his name. He would roast me. Uh, if I could have a pass to heaven, definitely Chris Priester because that's why I met him. My homie Chris, he passed away 2 years ago. They called him Unc. He was a big comedian down here. He could roast me, and I laugh about it. He's the only person in the world could cuss me out in front of my wife and kids, and they just die laughing
Right.
because he was so goddamn funny. Um, I would say if I really wanted somebody to take me apart and put me back together, I would say Just Niche. I'm a real big fan of her. I think she's funny as hell, and I personally would enjoy that. Um, Brian G, and I don't know if you've ever ran into Brian G or met Brian G, but um, it's crazy because I call him my comedy son. We not related, but I call him my comedy son because when I met him, he was on stage performing, and his mannerisms, his delivery, and everything was like me. So I'm sitting in the audience. I'm like, who is this boy mama and how old is he? That's the first thing I asked. Because, I'm an old black man. I'm a little nervous. I was like, who's this boy mama? Like, that's the first thing I asked him. I said, what's your mama name? Where y'all from? He's like, oh, we from Dade. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, you good. You clear. Because, I used to roll in Broward. I'm all right. So he's a funny comedian. I think would roast me pretty well. And see no evil blind ass. Yeah, them.
Mm,
Them would be those would be the ones I'd pick. I would want people that know me to roast me
right.
because they got the edge. They know who I am. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I know it's not malicious. It's coming from a good place.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Who are the comedians that you look up to in this game?
Before I started doing stand up, I was a huge fan of Bernie Mac.
Mm,
And I remember waking up because I had bootleg porn when I was like maybe 13. I had bootleg cable, sorry. And I used to get the porn channels. I used to, yeah, oh boy, I was on it. Hey, I learned how to bootleg cable. The little man across the fence from my granny house showed me how to bootleg cable.
hmm
And I'll never forget it. He said, if you take the wire and you run it up there to that little box and stick it into one of those little coaxes, you'll
hmm
get cable. So he taught me how to strip the wire. I climbed the pole, I stuck it in there, and I had the little duct tape on it, making sure it didn't fall. So I had cable in my granny house for like 6 months, just running to my room. So I used to get, I bought a box. Every time Comcast would update their box, I just go to the little swap shop, buy a new box. God bless the swap shop, helping people bootleg since the 80s.
Yep.
So I remember one night I stayed up like 12-1. I had just broke up with a little female, whatever, and I seen this thing called Def Comedy Jam, and everybody in school was talking about it, but I could never catch it because I'm either asleep or whatever. But I was up that night, and it just happened to be I Ain't Scared of You Motherfuckers, that iconic clip from Bernie Mac,
Iconic. Iconic.
iconic. So I remember watching that, and I was like, unbeknownst to how comedy works, I was like, yo, he's not scared of everybody. Look at what he's doing.
Right.
Flash forward to at the time I was thinking about when at the time my wife put me on stage, I had seen all of Bernie's movies. I caught all of his stand up, everything. Like I was enamored with Bernie Mac. But Bernie had one of those deliveries and presence that you just can't mimic it without people knowing.
Yeah.
So I make sure, being a Bernie Mac fan, I make sure I don't write, I don't sound, I don't deliver. Because when you're a fan of a comedian, and you're trying to do this, you're gonna take some of their mannerisms. I sat at an open mic about maybe 7 years ago. I'll never forget it. The kid got up and he did Kevin Hart's whole set. I mean the whole all right, all right, all right. He did the whole thing. And I'm looking around at the other comedians, and the other comedians are looking around, and we're like, we're gonna let this guy do this? Like, we're really gonna let him believe that he just killed this crowd? All he did was change some words. He did plagiarism. He changed some words, but it's Kevin Hart's set. Being in this business, the one thing you don't want to do, I don't care how good of a comedian they are, like everybody wants to be Cat Williams. Everybody
Hmm.
wants to be Cat Williams. Because Cat has made millions of dollars being his unapologetic self. If anybody wants to aspire to be yourself in this business, look at Cat, but don't be Cat.
Would you say that he's probably the most influential comedian today?
Hands down. Hands down. I remember I must have watched the Pimp Chronicles. I probably up there with Color Purple. I know Color Purple word for word. I could probably recite the Pimp Chronicles just as good, almost as good. That's how many times I watched the Pimp Chronicles. The Pimp Chronicles came out the year I started comedy.
Hmm.
Like, ironically, the year I started doing stand up, the Pimp Chronicles came out. And I remember watching that with my wife. We would, like, every Saturday, we would sit down, have some drinks, eat some food. And no matter what we watch, that you want to watch the Pimp Chronicles before we go to sleep? Yeah, hell yeah, throw that shit in. Like, just back and forth from DVD to digital to where he's at now. Cat by far, and this is no disrespect to Kevin, because Kevin's worked just as hard, and Kevin he's got the money behind him, he's got the followings behind him, he's got all of that, he's got the machine behind him, rightfully so, because that man worked just as hard. But it's something about the way Cat delivers what he's saying that hangs that has black culture like in the chokehold. He can't do no wrong.
Right. We
His
mentioned
his worst special is better than most of the specials that's coming out right now.
right. And it's funny that you bring up specials because that's what I was just about to get to. We've mentioned Bernie Mac on Def Comedy Jam, and now we're
Hmm.
talking about Pimp Chronicles. To you, what do you think is the best stand-up special of all time?
I would have to say Pimp Chronicles. I've watched it so much. I would have to say Pimp Chronicles. Unfortunately, Bernie never got a special. Bernie's my
Right.
favorite comedian, but I would have to say Pimp Chronicles would be my all-time go-to. I could watch Pimp Chronicles all day. Like if you think you're gonna torture me by putting me in a chair, opening my eyelids, and making me watch Pimp Chronicles, I got news for you. I mean, you
It's not
just
gonna work.
it's not gonna work. Like I can literally the mastering, the delivery, the everything changed comedy. You may not be a fan of Cat, or you may like Cat, or you may not look that deep into it. But what he did, he took his own money, he produced that film, wrote those jokes, set up everything in that theater, came out of nowhere. At the time, he was on Wild 'N Out. No, he wasn't on Wild 'N Out yet. At the time, he was on. I forget. It was another thing he was on. And that's a guy that's just like me. Like he started in Miami, left Miami, went to Atlanta, left Atlanta, went to LA, grinded, and eventually made it. And came up against all odds, changed different things. One thing in my 10 years of doing comedy, I've evolved so many different times. And people might look at me and say, well, you're not being true to yourself. No, I'm being true to myself because I'm not doing anything that I can't wake up the next morning and smile about. You know what I mean? I'm not doing anything that's put my manhood in jeopardy. I'm not doing anything that put my character in jeopardy. I'm trying different stuff, but if you don't try, you won't get anything. That's the same thing with Cat.
Yeah.
So essentially, when you're coming into comedy, you want to be one or two. You want to be Kevin or you want to be Cat. That's a huge cultural influence this man has had. That Pimp Chronicles by far opened the floodgates for a lot of today's comedians and set the tone with a lot of comedians. It made some of them say, you know what, I got to write because this little motherfucker funny. It
Right.
made some of them say, damn, maybe I need to quit because I can't do this shit.
Mm-hmm.
It was an eye opening experience, man.
As we talk about comedians and working on your craft, and you mentioned the evolution of your journey as a comedian yourself, how hard is it to be the creme de la creme in comedy, to be the best of the best?
It is. There's so many factors. Because I'm an honest person, I'm just going to tell you, it's so many factors. In order for you to be a successful comedian by today's standards, you have to have a solid network. You have to have a solid time, right? You have to have material. You have to have network. Those are two things as a stand-up comedian that you can't get around. You got to have the people that's going to say, hey, so and so's coming to town. You want to open for them? You got to have the people that's going to say, hey, I got a guy in South Florida. If you're going down here, look him up. You got to have the people to vouch because stand up comedy, I got to be honest with you, not every comedian you see on TV is worth it.
Mm.
Not every comedian. Like if you see Dave Chappelle with 15 comedians, eight, maybe nine of those comedians are hilarious. The other ones got on because somebody said, give my boy an opportunity. That's the God honest truth. People gonna talk shit because I'm saying it, but it's the God honest truth.
Mm-hmm.
I've met comedians that have been on tour with countless headliners. And when I meet them and I see them perform, I'm sitting here like you couldn't follow me. Here I am, just a guy out of South Florida grinding, trying to make it. You're nationwide and you couldn't follow me. I'm not being conceited. I'm just telling the truth. But that's how comedy.
Bert, we lost you. Your mic cut out. Oh no. I think we lost Bert. Wait, Bert, we can't hear you. We can't hear you. Okay, perfect. No, you're good. You're good.
because I literally have it on do not disturb. But the power of a wife,
No, you're good.
the power of a wife, the power of a wife. Prepare yourself because in about 3 minutes she's gonna call back. So, so, but that's the God honest truth. Not every comedian holds up to what they say they are when you meet
Yeah.
them. All right, and then some of them are what they say what they are. A lot of them are what they say they are.
Right.
So when you take those two things in consideration, your network and your ability, your material, there's one other factor that supersides all of that, and that's followers. If you're not strong on social media, unfortunately, you can't get to the places or the heights that you want to go because now it's an era of can you put asses in seats? And there's some people on social media that can put asses in seats. You know, there's some comedians on social media that can put asses on seats. And unfortunately, some of them are fine. Some of them actually, like Ryan Davis, like Ryan, that guy is hilarious. Like he is downright hilarious, but he started out as a stand-up comic, had 10, 11 years of experience, and then his mark hit on social media. You know what I mean? And then you got some comedians, I'm not going to dog them like that or nothing like that. I don't know them personally, but I've had the pleasure of seeing a few of them being in South Florida because they always come down here. Like, I had to open for this guy who's now he's a commentator, entertainment commentator, but he was a comedian. He started as a comedian. He hit Instagram with 200,000 followers. So all the promoters down here was booking him. They was like, oh yeah. He's funny, man. This guy, yeah, man, he's got comedy. And I went and I worked with the guy. At the time, I was like maybe 3-4 years into it. And I kept saying to myself, sitting in the crowd, like, this is going to be a disaster. So, it's not coming from a jealous spot. It's about comedians get paid from the promoters that put you on stage at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day. Until you hit that upper echelon where you're in Hollywood and it's a different ball game. Some of these people are selling out arenas and all this other stuff off of the fact that they got 1 million followers on Facebook, you know. But not all the time does that followers actually reflect talent. So it's a real fine line. If you got the connections and the material, you good to go. If you got the followers and the material, you good to go. If you got the followers and the connection, if you got two of those three things, you can make it in stand up comedy. Easy.
Complex had put out a list the other day of their funniest comedians on the internet. How do you feel about the sketches that, comedians are becoming more creative with and things like that? How do you feel like it helps comedy and boosts different comics?
It doesn't help stand up. It doesn't help stand up, and here's why. Because the old school, we're taught, and I consider myself old school because I started 10 years ago before the boom of the internet comedian. We're taught get your time up. We were taught get your time up. When I worked with Marvin Dixon a few times years ago, and one of the advices he gave me, I did 10 minutes. He gave me old school advice. He said get your time up and respect the light. You know what I mean? That's some of the things that we, the old schoolers, we got to pay attention to. But it's not that way for the internet comedians. To be honest with you, there's some internet comedians that are booking out clubs with only 10 minutes of time. And I know it sounds exaggerated, but think about it. Even if you got 5 or 6 openers at this show, the headliner, the one that everybody comes to see, only has 10 minutes of time. It doesn't matter that I do 30 minutes. They're not here to see me. They're here to see Oh No Jethro with 1 million followers that got this catchphrase, Oh No Jethro. You know what I mean? That's who they're here to see. So when you put that person in front of all these people, sometimes it's not even the internet comedian, it's the promoter that says, "Oh yeah, we're gonna book him for an hour show because people gonna want to come see him because he be on the phone all the time and woo woo, and he got the catchphrase." And then the people get there, it is not what they expected.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it hurts comedy more than it helps that these people, because they don't have a solid system. A lot of them aren't comedians that's on the grind, hitting the open mics, growing the craft, writing, putting together, a premise, a setup, a punchline. You know what I mean? in most cases, these people, as soon as they hit 100K followers, we on the road. Let's go. And who could blame them? It's in from what I see, the same old heads that'll tell you that's not the way to do comedy. As soon as these people show up, they're the first ones to get in line to be like, hey, let's go on tour together.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? Like, you got people that were so vocal about, Earthquake was vocal about IG. Oh, they ain't got no time. Mike Epps was vocal about IG. All these people was vocal about the IG comedians. But when DC on Fly hit 2 million, all of a sudden they're like, yeah, come on tour with me.
Right.
Because they need him to put asses in seats.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't say it helps us or hurts us per se, but I would definitely like to see more of those. Like Shula King. Shula King's funny. Shula King was a comedian with like 10, 15 years of comedic actual in the trenches. And then his numbers hit. When his numbers hit, the man went on tour. He's been on a consistent tour every year. The man packs out. But when he packs out, you get an hour and a half out of this man every show.
Right.
You're getting what a comedian's supposed to do. I'm not telling nobody how to do it because I'm trying to walk my own path. But both sides got to make sense. And in
Yeah.
most cases, it doesn't make sense.
Your social media has been growing a lot lately, and sometimes I spend some time on Instagram, and then I'll scroll down, and then boom, all of a sudden we get Bert voicing over a video, and it's absolutely hilarious. You've done
Yeah,
a
man.
lot of voiceovers lately.
Hmm.
How do you even come up with the things that you come up with when doing these voiceovers? Because it's so diverse. Like sometimes I'm scrolling down my feed and I'm like, oh, like we got some animals. I scroll down a little bit lower, then boom, I see the Bert logo and I know it's about to be a funny video. So how do you come up with the things that you come up with?
I'm gonna tell you something. I have been battling on social media to not do voiceovers for years. Because I remember, and it's prideful. I remember when Tony Baker opened his Instagram. I followed Tony Baker because I knew who he was because I was a comic. So I had heard about him, whatever. And I remember being one of those people that hit follow when he had 1,000 followers. Literally, it was me and 1,000 other people. And then I remember one day going on his page and it was 300,000 people. And
Damn.
I'm looking at his videos and it's not him doing stand up anymore. It's Skibbity Paps. So I'm like, okay, well, Tony made it. I can't do it. Super Ray. Same thing with Super Ray. I remember when Super Ray, months ago, when Super Ray was putting out the little videos of him going at people food. Now Super Ray is at almost 2 million. So reluctantly, I had a conversation with Pookie. And Pookie was telling me, he was like, yeah, man, I'm thinking about trying something new on social media. I want to, somebody gave me some advice. I should do voiceovers because, I'm funny. And I was like, yeah, bro, do that shit. And he goes, well, why you never do it? I said, you know what? I don't have a good reason. I just never done it. So he goes, try it. What do you got to lose? And I was like, you know what? I don't have shit to lose because you can look through my IG, you can look through my TikTok, you can look through my Facebook. You'll see I've tried everything that a man in my position can try to gain some attention to my page. So
Because I was just about to tell you we lost you again, but then I was like, oh wait, he's right back.
no, I told you 3 minutes right on the money. So 20 something years of being with somebody, you know them well.
Right.
Um, so one day I just tried it, and there's a video where they let a monkey out of captivity back into the wild, and I did a voiceover pretending that the monkey recently got out of jail. So I put the video out, and on Facebook, it did a little. I mean, on Instagram, it did a little something. But I've started getting all these Facebook notifications. It was like back to back to back to back to back to back to back. So I go and I look, and literally my first voiceover video, like not a roast video, a voiceover video. My first voiceover video had 100,000 views and likes within 30 minutes. So I'm looking at my wife and I go, holy shit, this might be it. So within a week, I hit a million views, 17,000 shares, 480 something comments, all this shit. I don't know what to do. So I'm like, yo, I think I'm gonna give this voiceover shit a try. So I just keep doing it. And what I look for in these videos, because you got to be, first of all, you got to be on it with these voiceovers because there's so many comedians that do voiceovers. You know, I just named two of them, just, you know, Super Ray, Tony Baker, Current Claiborne. You know, there's all these other comedians that do voiceovers and they got to comb for these videos too. So you got to find different means, or you know, you just got to comb and look. I like to go and check their pages to make sure I'm not doing something they're doing,
Mm.
because because black people let you know, black people are very protective of their voiceover comedians. They are very protective.
Yep.
You have no idea. That video I got with the cat. There's a video I got with a dude trying to touch the cat, and I'm saying, you know, don't touch me back there. So many words. So many people went up under there. It was like Tony Baker, Tony Baker, Tony Baker, Tony Baker. I'm like, damn, let me live, man. I made sure Tony Baker didn't touch this cat. And what do I see a day later? Tony Baker done found the damn cat because
Yeah.
everybody done tagged him. So when you, and like I'm not in competition with these people, but you need to create your own lane, because if you have your favorite voiceover person, you're not gonna want to see anybody else do it.
Yeah.
It's just like your favorite comedian. If you got access to Cat, you're not gonna go book Kevin, and
Right.
vice versa. If you got access to Kevin, you're not gonna go book Cat. So it's the same thing. But I'm blessed, man. I'm thankful, and it's popping, and I'm just trying to get some work, man.
Is there anything like let's say maybe a cartoon or even a show or even just a character that you like would love to voice over? Because sometimes when I see like your videos on Instagrams and things like excuse me, on Instagram and things like that, I think of Dr. Doolittle. Like that's the first thing I think of, and how like because I
Yeah,
grew up a big Eddie Murphy fan. Like Eddie Murphy was at his peak, well, I wouldn't say his peak, but I would say maybe he was in his acting peak or on the
yeah,
downslope of it when I was a kid. Dr. Doolittle was around Nutty Professor and things like that.
yeah.
Is there any project like that that you would love to do in the future?
I would love to do a Doctor Doolittle type movie. I would love that,
Mm-hmm.
um, or show. I would love to do something animated. You know, like I would love to do a real version of the Justice League, not just
Oh,
not, you know what I'm saying, like a real version. One of my favorite shows, like I could watch it all the time, is Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. Like literally, if you go on my Netflix queue, you'll
mm-hmm.
see that I'm watching Justice League and Justice League Unlimited
Right.
religiously. I watch this show right at least once a month, two times a month at least. I would love to do a more realistic version, kind of like Harley Quinn, but not so campy. You know what
Mm,
I mean? Like I would love to do that version. I would love to voice Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart is one of my favorite characters. He's voiced by Phil Lamar. Phil Lamar has done Static. He's done John. He's done plenty. Like the man's got 1,000 voices. I would love to step in and do one of those voices, you know, for that particular thing. But for the most part, anything comedy wise, I'm down for. And you know, I got some voices that I can do. You know, I got some impersonations that I can do. But it's still a growing path for me, because truth be told, my wife is the one that's always wanted to do voiceovers, and I just kind of lucked into this, but it's working for me. You know, I've found my niche. The one thing as a comic, when you can find your niche and people can support, and I'm getting inboxes from people telling me this video made their day, and people are tagging me talking about, oh my God, he's funny. Like this is something I have been waiting for years, and it's happening now, and it's happening because one of my good friends told me you should try it, and I finally broke down my pride and say, "F it, I'll give it a shot."
right. It seems like a lot of your success comes from other people kind of just putting you in very fast situations. Like you mentioned how your wife was like, yo, nah, he could do stand up. And your friend
Yep.
is telling you like, yo, you got to do these voiceovers. Like how do you think with the success that you're achieving now, how do you feel that maybe you would have carried yourself or even treated the success if you had received it maybe like 20 years ago?
I gotta go a little deep on that, because again, I was raised up in a house of performers. I sing very well. When I was younger, I could dance very well too. When I tell you, I personally, I never believed I was the most talented of all my cousins. You know, we are a singing family. If you've ever heard of the Cornelius brothers and Sister Rose, Too Late to Turn Back Now, Treat Her Like a Lady, Big Time Lover, those songs, they were sampled by Kanye, Common. Um, I grew up, that is my family. My dad was one of the strongest R&B singers I've ever heard in my life. Like as a little boy, I remember hearing this guy voice like, how in the hell am I gonna do that? Like I remember, like I get a little nervous. People say, "Oh, he just like his dad," and like, "Are you sure? Because have you heard that Negro sing?" So, and I took so much after trying to find my own path, and what it led me down was not believing enough in myself to where I got accustomed to people telling me I should try. So even as an adult now, some people can call it humbleness, but it's a bit of a hindrance to me at times to where I feel like I should you try it? Should you try it? Should you do it? You pretty much are successful in most of the things that you put a hand in. Give it a shot. But it's always good. This is why you pick your friends, pick the people around you. I had a good enough wife that seen me. I literally was. I really literally had meetings with No Limit. I met up with Timberland, and I had opportunities that was just opportunities that didn't go nowhere. I met slews of people when I met up with No Limit. I met up with the God, I can't remember his name. I think his name's Kevin, the cousin that was Master P's CEO. I met him at my job. I used to work at Best Buy in Aventura. I met him at my job, and I begged the man. I was like, "Yo, I got a demo. Can I get you the demo? Can I please get you the demo?" He said, "Yo, I'll be here tomorrow because I got to pick some more stuff up. Bring the demo." I bought him the demo. He took it home with me. He came back that next day. He bought me the demo. He said, "Keep working, kid." Straight up like that. He said, "Right now, No Limit ain't got no room for no R&B singers. We got Sons of Funk that ain't really moving." This was during No Limit's transition from private to Universal,
Mm-hmm.
so he just kind of laid it out for me. I met Gloria Stefan, sung for her. All these things that was happening for me, music just wasn't pushing. It just wasn't getting to that next level. And then my wife, who stood by me with that, seen comedy and said, "Hey, this is your mark. That's somebody. Keep good people around you because that's somebody that's seen something in you that you didn't see and help move you towards that." And the same thing with Pookie. That's somebody that's seen something in me that I didn't see that pushed me towards that. If you got good people around you, that's what happens.
What's some of the worst advice that you've gotten since being in comedy?
Some of the worst advice I gotten.
Some of the worst advice.
5 or 5,000. That's a Larry Dog comment. You know what? It's not. Larry Dog's a different breed. It's not a bad. It's not bad advice per se, but if you go from 5,000 people to performing in front of five, that's gonna let some steam out you. That's gonna
Right.
let some steam out you. That's gonna let some steam. And guess what? I've been there. I've went and I performed in front of 1,000 people. I don't know, like 4 or 5,000 people at the city of Miramar, and then I booked the gig that next week, and it was only like 7 people in that motherfucker. Let me tell you, I felt it. I felt it. So yeah, that's some of the worst advice that I've gotten in comedy, and I personally believe that if it doesn't work, try something different. Like if you keep trying a joke and the joke not hitting, throw it away.
Yeah.
You can't drill something down. It's not about doing it enough times to make it work. It just doesn't work. So you let it go and try
Ha-
something different. Don't be afraid to evolve.
have you ever bombed before?
I bombed. I mean, the
How do you like
worst
bounce
time.
back from that?
Yeah, you bounce back from it, but the worst time I bombed. I was at a birthday party, and Shawty, comedian Shawty from Atlanta, from Wild 'N Out, he was the headliner. This was some lady's birthday party. A big time dope dealer in West Palm had booked me and some. Yeah, no, he booked me for his sister's birthday party. Listen,
Okay, got it. I thought the
yeah,
lady was. I was like, how could you just go from
nah, he
a
booked
lady
me
and
for his
then?
sister
Mhm.
birthday party. I can't remember the guy's name to save my life, but I know he sell dope because he paid me in advance and at the door. And he pulled it from a wad, and he got a wad of money. He said, "How much you need, young blood?" When he said young blood, I said, "Oh yeah, he done cut coke before." So young blood is a coke cutting term. So when he flipped that out, like I'm not gonna lie, the man paid me like $400
Mhm.
altogether. So there was a train coming, and the train kept coming. We was right by the train for some reason. So the train passed through during everybody's set. Like we couldn't escape it. So I get up there, the train passed through my set, and I let the train take me off the people. I was doing all right. I let the train take me off the people, and then I came back. One thing you don't want to do in comedy is you don't want to go, so what y'all doing? Like you don't want to.
Mm,
It's just like in speech, just like in debate.
right,
They tell you in debate and speech, no because people won't hear your message. Same thing in comedy.
right.
So I go, so what y'all got planned? Right after I said that, that lady stood up and said, "Get his ass off stage." I said,
And it's
"Hold
like
on,
you
baby,
can't
you're
even
not gonna
say
let me
nothing
finish
back.
the set." She say, "Fuck no, get off stage."
And it's like you can't even say nothing back because this is the biggest drug dealer in West Palm's girl.
He had to be. He had to be. He had to be. I don't know. I don't know what he do now. He probably found God. I don't know because I ain't seen him since that party. So he comes up to me after the party. He say, "That's a damn shame, young blood. You should have just left it alone, man." I say, "Bro, I had him. I had him." Every comedian after that, every comedian at that show bombed except one, the headliner. Cause that's who she wanted. She say, "I'm tired of these lame ass niggas. Bring Shawty." Shawty was there with his girlfriend. Shawty caught me at the door. Shawty was like, "You all right, blood? How long you been doing? How long you been doing stand up?" At the time, I was doing it 3 years. I was like 3 years. He said, "Oh boy, you ain't been through shit yet."
Mhm.
He said, but that was the worst time I bombed. And then it don't happen often, but there's another time when I was with Larry Dog in Miami, and Larry Dog at the time would take us to these cigar bars just for the fuck of it. If you did a Larry Dog show years ago, he different now. You know, the man pretty much famous or whatever. But if you did a Larry Dog show back then, he would take you to these places. He say, "How strong you think you is? I'm gonna take you to this spot. You can make them laugh here. You got it." So he took us to the cigar bar, and my turn to get up, and I was doing good. I fucked up. I was doing good. Like, TVs was on, people smoking cigars. I'm doing crowd work. I'm making people laugh. And there's this one lady. She's got she got the whole bus driver vibe going. She got the little bowl haircut. She got the 1 star gold. She got fingernails. And I noticed she not paying attention, so I say something to her to get her attention. She cussed me out, so I cuss her back, and I'm letting her ass have it. So I get off the stage, right? I go outside. It's a shadow on my back. I see the shadow on my back. I'm like, what the hell is this? I didn't know that she was there with her man, her husband. This man's 6'8", 400 something pounds easy. He put his hand on my shoulder. I felt the imprint, so I couldn't run. So I'm gonna handle it like a man. I'm like, "Hey, what's going on, man?" He said, "You see that? You see the woman you was in there cussing out and talking about?" I said, "Hey, man, listen, she heckled me, and I just had to defend myself. I ain't no hard feelings. Like I'm trying to tell this nigga, bro, I'm sorry. I do not have no fight in me tonight,
Mhm.
cause I ain't got nothing in the car that could take your big ass out. I ain't even got a tire iron." Instead, he decided. He said, "You know what? I'm gonna just give you some advice. You don't mess with nobody in these crowds because you don't know who here with them.
Mm.
This Miami, nigga. This ain't Broward." I'm like, "Bro, I did comedy in Miami before." But I said, "You know what? I'm gonna shut the fuck up, sir. I'm gonna just take my little advice." And I had to hold it. I'm like, "All right, bro, you know what? My bad, my brother. Just tell her I'm sorry. If I see her again, it won't happen again." He said, "Better fucking not, because it ain't gonna go no easier."
At that
Yeah.
point, did anything come into your mind, at least like for a second, just to start roasting him too?
To this day, I wonder where the fuck my wife was because she was there with me that night.
She saw the boyfriend before you did.
More than likely. To this day, I'm like, damn, well, where the hell was you? Because when I felt that shit, I was alone in this world. Like
Right.
I ain't have nothing. I was by myself. Well, yeah, those are two that stick out. And then you have, you might feel that you could try something. Like my first time in Atlanta, I felt like I could try something. Atlanta's a different beast. Come with your prep shit. Don't go to Atlanta thinking you're gonna be able to freestyle and no. Even if you in an open mic at Atlanta, bring your good shit to the open mic in Atlanta because they're not here for it. They here to laugh. Either you make them laugh or go home. That's
Right.
it.
And how do you bounce back from that? Like, because you mentioned two times where, things have gone left, but a lot of people, if something goes left once, they quit. So you having that experience, how if another comedian were to go through the same thing, how would you coach them through that?
I think it's different for me because I learned failure at an early age.
Mm,
I learned failure at an early age. I grew up in the projects in the hood. Was raised by my great grandmother. Been on welfare. I know what it is to go to school with a hole in a pair of pants.
right.
I know what it is to go to school in some bobos and got to crack through that whole day against people because you got on some plastic shoes. Like
Mm-hmm.
I know failure and disappointment. Whereas some of these comics, they may not have been through some of the struggles that I've been through. You see what I'm saying? So with that in mind, I kind of transfer those experiences to life and many others into these situations. And I say to myself, I'm alive. I got an opportunity to do it again. I'll be all right. That's me. That's me through any point of failure. I'm alive. I got a chance to do it again. As long as I can wake up tomorrow, tomorrow's a new day. But one show don't make you. One show don't break you. Simple.
And what do you live for today? What gets you up in the morning?
Bro, I told you I got raised by a 80-something-year-old woman. I'd be happy to breathe some days.
Mm,
I just I'd be happy for breath. But the motivation that gets me up every day, I got 4 kids. My oldest is 25. My youngest is 16. My everyday is of course to support them and of course do something that they could be proud of. I went on this journey when they was pretty much adolescents. My 16-year-old was 6 when I started doing stand up. You know, and they've been with me through this journey. I made sure that they had a father present so they would never grow up in their life thinking that somebody didn't love them because they was always on the road trying to provide.
mm-hmm.
So I gave them that. I gave them their adolescence, and when it came time for me to chase a dream, they were okay with it. It was like, man, this man gives up his every day. I was working in retail at the time. This man gives up his every day. He works hard. He comes home. We see him. We love him. Let him go do something that's for him. This is the first thing in my life between being a father for a husband, a son, siblings to 4 other people. This is the first thing I've done in my life that's for me. That's why it means so much. And I'll keep trying. If I'm not on somebody's TV, on somebody's stage, next 20 years, you still gonna see me out here cracking jokes because I enjoy it, I love it, and it's for me.
Do any of your kids want to do comedy too?
Hell no.
Why not?
None of them. I think it's kind of similar to how I got away from the music business. I think once I found something that was my own niche, because literally, my family reunion, we could all sit in a line at my family reunion and all go down the line, and at least 5 out of 6 of us can sing our ass off.
Mm-hmm.
But to be truth be told, there's not many comedians. I found something that was my niche. That was something for me. With my kids, it's the same thing.
Right.
If it's something for them, they'll love it. I don't think my kids will ever get into stand up because it's something that daddy went and conquered.
Mm-hmm.
They're a lot like me. They want to find their own, create their own. and pursue their own. And I support them with whatever they do. But my kids got sense of humor, man. My daughters are funny. My sons are funny. You know, my wife's funny. I told her plenty of times, you should pick up a mic and come stand next to me because you got it. But whatever they choose to do in life, Daddy will always be there to support.
That's dope. That's dope. And what's next for you now?
Well, we growing these accounts. We got a show on the 6th, and I believe that's in Opalaka. It's a birthday roast for Pookie. Pookie birthday on the 3rd. I think we roasted him then. Um, with Bob Sumner in August. That's a big thing because Bob Sumner is like the king of comedy and one of the biggest promoters, producers of comedy, and I get an opportunity to go and perform for him. And we're booking, man. We're booking throughout the months, and I got a couple private events in July that we're working. So just trying to keep afloat, keep working, and keep growing this fan base.
Dope. And where can the people find you at on social media, wherever?
At Bert C Comedy. If you Christian, pray before you come to one of my pages. I'm just warning you. No, I'm kidding. It ain't nothing. It ain't nothing that bad that you got to go pray for me beforehand. But at Bert C Comedy everywhere, the Incredible Mr. Show. If you find Mr. Show or at Bert C Comedy, that's me. It's the same all across the board. Add me on Facebook, like me on Facebook, TikTok, all that other stuff. I don't rock too heavy with TikTok like I used to because you can't even say damn on TikTok no more.
Yeah.
But you can't even say damn. Like literally, I got a video flagged because I said damn in the video, like literally. So, but you can still find me those places. I respond. If you want to book me for an event, reach out to me. We'll go ahead and negotiate and we'll get that popping.
Perfect. Sounds great. Bert, I want to thank you so much again for coming on today. It was a pleasure talking to you. I followed you for some time now, and I've always wanted to do this, and I'm so happy that I got the chance. It means a lot to me, and I wish you the best of success in your future moving forward.
Hey, my brother, I thank you and thank you for your diligence and getting past my dog with his craziness and everything else, man. And it was a great interview. I really appreciate it, man. And thank you so much for considering me.
Thank you, brother. And pet the four-legged heckler for me.
I got you, man. I got you.
All right, brother. We'll speak soon.
All right, take care.
You too, bro.
Bye.